She looks like your deceased daughter. A story of truth and justice. She looks like your deceased daughter, a millionaire's wife shouted in the middle of the street, stopping everyone around. Asterisk. The phrase sounded like madness, but his gaze froze instantly. Asterisk. No one knew who the girl was, or what that resemblance would reveal. Asterisk. What followed unearthed a family secret that nearly destroyed everything. Asterisk. If this story interests you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching from. Let's continue. Promise this will be the best story you'll ever hear in your life. The heat trickled down the stones of the ground, like dry sweat from a forgotten land. The path leading to the town square was the same every day for Emily. Dust, glances that looked away, sideways smiles of scorn. She walked with her body arched, carrying a basket of vegetables still moist from the harvest made before sunrise. Each step was a reminder of the exclusion she wore like an open wound. It wasn't just the work that weighed on her back, but the months of abandonment, forced solitude, the cruel silence of a community that had once welcomed her. Asterisk. The small town of Golden Ridge in rural Virginia was a place where words flew faster than the wind. Since her father, Frank Miller, had been accused of embezzling money from the local cooperative, Emily's life had transformed into a daily calvary. The accusations were never proven, but they were enough to destroy the reputation of the family that had cultivated those lands for generations. "Look, there's the thief's daughter," whispered the women at the market, hiding their mouths behind improvised fans. Asterisk. Emily pretended not to hear. At 27, she had learned to swallow her tears and hold her head high. Her eyes, green as the plantations she tended alone, rarely rose to face the hostile gazes. She preferred silence to confrontation. She cared for the small property that remained to the family with the dedication of someone who knows that the earth is the only thing that doesn't judge those who cultivate it. Asterisk. On that particular morning, the contempt surpassed the usual. When trying to sell her products at the weekly market, she was met with public insults. "Nobody wants to buy anything from the daughter of a man without honor," shouted Austin Matthews, the current president of the cooperative and her father's main accuser. "Your vegetables must be stolen like everything your father touched." Asterisk. Loud laughter, words as sharp as daggers, hit her dignity in the open square. The crowd gathered. Some looked with pity, others with disdain, but no one interfered. What hurt more than the insults was the complicit silence of those who watched without moving a muscle. Asterisk. Emily felt her face burn. Tears threatened to fall, but she contained them with the strength of someone who knows that crying in public would only be another reason for humiliation. She was about to collect her products and return home when something unexpected happened. Asterisk. It was at that moment that something shifted reality. An apparently ordinary figure interrupted the scene, mounted on a workhorse, face marked by the sun, simple clothes like any rural worker. He didn't shout or impose. He just dismounted and walked to Emily's stall, observing everything around with an intensity that gradually diminished the murmuring. "How much is all of this?" asked the stranger, pointing to the complete basket of vegetables. Asterisk. Emily, still, dazed, could barely answer. $50 for the whole basket, sir." Asterisk. Without hesitation, the man took the money from his pocket and handed it to her. His gaze met that of Austin Matthews, and the contained force in that look stopped the storm. Not a word was said. No explanation was given. But, for the first time, someone stood between her and the hostile world. And that, although silent, was an earthquake. "Tomorrow I'll be back to buy more," he said simply, before taking his purchase and mounting his horse again. "Your vegetables seem to be the freshest at the market." Asterisk. Emily observed the stranger move away, feeling a mixture of gratitude and suspicion. Who was this man? Why had he defended her? In a small town like Golden Ridge, new faces were rare and always caused a commotion. Asterisk. The next morning, as promised, the man returned, and the day after that too. Always discreet, observant, buying small portions of vegetables, asking gentle questions about cultivation, disappearing without fanfare. There were no promises, only presence. A presence that, without invading, took root. "My name is Michael," he revealed after a week of daily visits. "I'm an agronomist. I came to study the planting techniques of the region." Emily, accustomed to isolation, didn't know how to react to that disarming attention. She felt distrustful, but at the same time wanted to believe that there were still eyes capable of seeing her without revulsion. With time, something changed inside her. Shame gave way to curiosity. Pain gave space to indignation. Why would her father have disappeared so suddenly, leaving her alone to face the accusations? Why had he never tried to prove his innocence? And more importantly, why would precisely the most honest man she had known in her life have committed a crime so contrary to all his principles? She decided that she would no longer accept carrying a guilt that wasn't hers. On a rainy afternoon, while organizing old documents in the small office of her house, Emily found a notebook of her father's annotations. In the last pages, Frank had written about suspicions of a money laundering scheme inside the cooperative, led precisely by those who now accused him. "I have evidence, but I don't know who to trust," said the last note, dated the day of his disappearance. Emily felt her heart accelerate. Maybe her father hadn't fled out of guilt, but out of fear. Perhaps he was hidden somewhere, gathering evidence against his true enemies. Or maybe she didn't want to think about the other possibility. Guided. By this discovery, Emily decided to investigate further. Without anyone knowing, she began to search through the public archives of the town hall, discreetly talked with former employees of the cooperative, noted each inconsistency she found. Meanwhile, Michael's presence became increasingly constant in her life, not just as a customer but as a friend, perhaps the only one she had had in months. With him, Emily felt she could lower her guard, if only for a few minutes. There was something in his eyes that conveyed trust, as if he knew the pain of abandonment as well as she did. What Emily didn't know was that Michael harbored secrets as deep as the mysteries she was beginning to unravel. Secrets that, when revealed, would forever change the destiny of Golden Ridge and all its inhabitants, especially hers. 2 weeks passed since Emily had found her father's notebook. During this period, her routine gained a new purpose beyond daily survival. The day she cared for her plantations and sold her products at the market. At night, she transformed into an amateur detective, poring over documents and clues that might reveal her father's whereabouts or prove his innocence. Michael's constant presence brought subtle changes around her. The looks of contempt at the market began to decrease, not out of acceptance but out of curiosity. Who was this stranger who showed such interest in the thief's daughter? Why would someone apparently educated pay attention to this woman marked by shame? "Have you noticed that people are talking?" Emily asked Michael one afternoon as they walked along the boundaries of her property. "Let them talk," he replied, with a calm smile. "Words only have the power we give them." Emily observed Michael's profile against the light of the setting sun. There was something familiar about him, something she couldn't quite place. Perhaps it was just the comfort of finally having someone to talk to without feeling judged. "Why do you keep coming back?" The question escaped before she could contain it. Michael stopped walking and looked directly at her. His eyes, a deep brown, seemed to hold oceans of untold stories. "Because I recognize injustice when I see it," he answered simply. "And because your vegetables really are the best in the region," he added with a smile that softened the intensity of the moment. That night, while reviewing the documents she had found once more, Emily heard a strange noise coming from the barn. Arming herself with courage and an old shotgun that had belonged to her grandfather, she headed there. Her heart beat rapidly in her chest. Who would be invading her property at that hour? Upon opening the barn door, she was confronted with an unexpected scene. 2 men frantically rummaging among the hay bales as if searching for something specific. Upon seeing her, they tried to flee, but Emily blocked the door. "Who are you? What are you looking for on my property?" she demanded, the shotgun firm in her trembling hands. "We're just following orders, ma'am," one of them responded nervously. "The boss said he needed to check if something was hidden here." "What boss? What are you talking about? Asterisk before she could get answers. One of the men pushed a barrel in her direction, creating the necessary distraction for them to escape through the side door. Emily still tried to follow them, but they disappeared into the darkness of the night. Asterisk. Returning to the barn, she carefully examined the area the intruders had been exploring. On the floor, she found an envelope that must have fallen during their hasty escape. Inside, there were old photographs of the cooperative, including one where her father appeared next to a man she didn't immediately recognize. Turning the photo over, she read the inscription, Frank and Richard Anderson, inauguration of the new headquarters, 1995, asterisk Richard Anderson. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but Emily couldn't associate it with any known face in Golden Ridge. Who was this man, and what was his connection to her father? And more importantly, why would someone send men to search for something on her property after so much time? The next morning, she decided to show the photo to Michael. Something in her instinct told her she could trust him, even without knowing exactly why. "Do you know this man next to my father?" she asked, extending the photograph. Asterisk Michael examined the image carefully, and for a brief moment, Emily noticed a shadow cross his face. It was so quick that she almost doubted having seen it. "It appears to be Richard Anderson, the former owner of the lands that today belong to the cooperative," he answered, returning the photo. "I heard he left the region many years ago after selling everything he owned here. Why do you ask?" Asterisk Emily told him about the nocturnal invasion and the mysterious search. As she spoke, she noticed that Michael became increasingly tense, as if each of her words confirmed some internal suspicion. "Emily, I think you need to be very careful," he finally said. "If they're looking for something on your property, it means you might be stirring up a bigger hornet's nest than you imagine. I already have nothing left to lose, Michael. My reputation, my name, everything was destroyed. The only thing left for me is to discover the truth about my father." Asterisk. He looked at her with an intensity that made her blush. "You have more to lose than you imagine," he murmured, "and I couldn't bear to see you get hurt." Asterisk. The words hung between them, loaded with a meaning that neither was prepared to fully explore. There was a connection growing there, an alliance that went beyond casual friendship. Emily felt simultaneously protected and uneasy around Michael, as if he were both a safe harbor and a mystery to be unraveled. Asterisk. While they debated what to do with the discovery, strange events began to unfold in the town. The property adjacent to Emily's, which was about to be auctioned for debts to the cooperative, was mysteriously purchased by an anonymous investor. The same happened with two other small farms in the region, all belonging to families who, like Emily, had fallen from grace for opposing Austin Matthews' policies. Asterisk rumors began to circulate. Someone mysterious would be buying small properties and settling the debts of local farmers. A new name emerged in the backstage of political decisions, New Ridge Consortium, though nobody knew exactly who was behind it or what their real intentions were. Asterisk. Emily connected the dots slowly. The mysterious purchases, the invasions on her property, the sudden interest in lands that until recently were worth almost nothing. Everything indicated that something big was about to happen in Golden Ridge, something that somehow connected to her father's disappearance and the accusations against him. Asterisk. Determined to discover more, Emily began to investigate the so-called New Ridge Consortium. Her visit to the commercial registry of the neighboring town revealed only superficial information. A recently registered company with surprisingly high declared capital and a legal representative whose name, Charles Dumont, meant nothing to her. Asterisk. Upon returning home that afternoon, Emily found her tomato plantation completely destroyed. The plants had been uprooted and trampled, and an anonymous note attached to the fence simply said, "Stop looking or it will be worse." Asterisk. Tears of anger and frustration ran down her face. It wasn't just the material loss that hurt, but the deliberate cruelty of the act. Someone wanted to silence her, make her give up seeking the truth. Asterisk. It was in this moment of despair that Michael appeared, as if he could sense that she needed him. Upon seeing the destruction and Emily in tears, His face hardened in an expression she had never seen before. "This just became personal," he said, with a voice that no longer seemed to belong to the gentle agronomist she had met. "Emily, there's something I need to tell you. Something that will change everything you think about what happened to your father and about who I really am." Emily wiped away her tears and faced Michael, feeling that she was about to cross a point of no return. "Who are you, Michael? What do you know about all this?" The sun was setting on the horizon, painting the sky red and gold. The shadows stretched over the devastated land, like omens of what was to come. Michael breathed deeply, like someone preparing to dive into deep and dangerous waters. "My real name," he began, "is Michael Anderson. Richard Anderson was my father." The silence that followed Michael's revelation seemed to have physical weight. Emily felt as if the ground beneath her feet had disappeared. Michael Anderson, son of Richard Anderson. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to fit together, but they still formed an image she couldn't fully comprehend. "Why did you hide this from me? Why are you here pretending to be someone else?" she finally asked, her voice trembling with contained emotion. Michael led her to the small porch of the house. The sky was already darkening, and the first stars were timidly appearing. It was too beautiful a night for such bitter revelations. "My father sold all his properties in Golden Ridge and left almost 20 years ago. I was just a teenager at the time," began Michael, his gaze fixed on the horizon as if he could see the past drawn in the night sky. "He never fully explained to me why we left everything behind. He would only say that he had been betrayed by people he considered friends. Before he passed away 6 months ago, he gave me a folder with documents and said, 'Correct my mistakes, son. Don't let that land remain in the wrong hands.'" Emily observed Michael's profile as he spoke. There was pain in his voice and also determination. In the folder there were records of all the properties that belonged to our family, including this one where you live now, Emily, and also evidence of a fraud scheme that involved the forced sale of these lands organized by Austin Matthews and his associates. "And what does my father have to do with this?" asked Emily, feeling her heart accelerate. "Frank Miller was the accountant of my father's main farm. He was the first to discover the frauds. According to the documents I found, your father tried to alert mine about what was happening, but it was too late. My father had already signed the sale papers, deceived by fraudulent contracts. When he realized the mistake, he preferred to leave with the little money he had left rather than face a public scandal." Emily stood up abruptly, unable to contain her internal agitation. "Are you telling me that my father was innocent? That he tried to prevent the frauds?" "More than that," continued Michael, standing up as well. "Your father continued investigating, even after we left. The documents I found show correspondence between him and my father for years. Frank was gathering evidence against Austin and his accomplices, evidence that would demonstrate how they illegally appropriated not only the lands of my family, but of dozens of small farmers in the region." Emily felt tears spring to her eyes. All these years believing that her father had fled out of guilt, when in truth he was trying to do justice. But then, why had he disappeared so suddenly? Why had he abandoned her? As if reading her thoughts, Michael held her hands between his. "Emily, your father didn't abandon you. The last correspondence I received from him, sent shortly before my father died, mentioned that he was close to gathering all the necessary evidence to unmask the scheme. He said that he would return to get you as soon as it was safe." "Then, what happened to him?" The question Emily most feared asking finally escaped her lips. Michael hesitated, and she saw the answer in his eyes before he even spoke. "I'm not sure, but I fear that Austin and his men discovered what your father was doing." The letter was never answered, and soon after, accusations began to circulate that he had stolen money from the cooperative and fled. Emily felt a wave of nausea. If what Michael said was true, then her father might have suffered much more than the exile of shame. He might have been permanently silenced. The idea was too unbearable to contemplate. "Why did you return to Golden Ridge? What do you intend to do?" she asked, trying to focus on something more concrete than her dark suspicions. I came to fulfill my father's last wish, to recover what was stolen from our family and expose the truth about Austin Matthews and his group. That's why I created the New Ridge Consortium, a company I've been using to buy back one by one the properties that were illegally taken. My plan is to gather enough evidence to bring all those involved to justice. And me? Where do I fit in all this? Why did you approach me? Michael released her hands and took a step back, as if he needed distance to organize his thoughts. At first I sought you out, because your name appeared in your father's letters. I thought you might know something, that he might have entrusted information or documents to you, but then... He paused and Emily saw something new in his eyes, something that went beyond the mission of justice that had brought him there. Then I met you. I saw your strength, your dignity, even under the weight of daily humiliation. I saw how you continued to care for this land with the same love your father had for it. And I understood that it wasn't just about recovering properties or exposing criminals, it was about restoring lives that were destroyed by greed. Emily felt her heart beat faster. There was sincerity in Michael's words, a vulnerability that didn't match someone who was just manipulating her to obtain information. "What do you intend to do now?" she asked. "I'll continue with my plan. I've already recovered almost half of the properties that were stolen, but I need concrete evidence of the frauds to bring Austin and the others to justice. I believe your father gathered this evidence before disappearing. The men who invaded your barn were looking for it." "And you think this evidence is hidden on my property?" "It's possible. Your father was meticulous and careful. He wouldn't leave such important evidence just anywhere." Emily thought about the notebook she had found, the last words written by her father. "I have evidence, but I don't know who to trust." If he had really gathered evidence against Austin, where would he have hidden it? "I'll help you find what my father hid," she finally decided. "Not just for justice for our family, but for all who were harmed by Austin and his group." Michael smiled, a smile that lit up his eyes in a way that made Emily's heart skip a beat. "I expected no less from you. But I need you to understand the risks. These people are dangerous and have already demonstrated that they will do anything to protect their secrets. The attack on your plantation was just a warning." "I'm not afraid," replied Emily, with a determination that surprised even herself. "I've lived years under the weight of shame and contempt. What more could they take from me?" Michael looked at her with a mixture of admiration and concern. "Your life, Emily. They could take your life as they may have taken your father's." A shiver ran down Emily's spine. The possibility that her father had been murdered by those men was something she tried to push from her mind, but that now presented itself as a probable and terrifying reality. That night, after Michael left, promising to return the next morning with a plan of action, Emily couldn't sleep. She turned the house upside down, looking for any hiding place her father might have used to conceal important documents. False drawers, double bottoms in wardrobes, loose floorboards, nothing escaped her meticulous inspection. But she found nothing besides dust and memories. She was almost giving up when her gaze fell upon the old grandfather clock that had belonged to her grandfather, a family relic that her father valued above any other object. Emily remembered how, as a child, she would watch fascinated while he wound the mechanism every Sunday, with an almost reverent ritual. She approached the clock and examined it carefully. It seemed normal, though it hadn't worked in years. On impulse, she tried to open the glass door that protected the face. It was locked, which was strange, because she remembered seeing it open many times when her father adjusted the hands. With her heart racing, Emily looked for something she could use as a key. She tried various small objects until an old paperclip, properly bent, did the trick. The door opened with a soft click. What she found inside the clock made her blood freeze. Hidden behind the mechanism was a small USB device. Next to it, a folded paper with just one sentence written in her father's unmistakable handwriting: "For my daughter, when it's safe." Emily held the device with trembling hands. There, in that small object, could be all the answers she sought. The truth about her father, about Austin Matthews, about everything that had happened in Golden Ridge in recent years. Without wasting time, she turned on her old laptop and inserted the device. A password-protected folder appeared on the screen. Emily tried various combinations, birthdays, names of family members, without success. Frustrated, she was about to give up when a memory emerged. Her father used to call her his little guiding star. Asterisk. She typed guiding star, and to her surprise, the folder opened, revealing dozens of meticulously organized files, documents, photographs, audio recordings, a treasure trove of evidence her father had gathered over the years, proving not only the frauds in the land sales, but a much larger corruption scheme that involved local politicians, judges, and even state authorities. Emily spent the entire night reviewing the material, each new discovery increasing her indignation and her determination. When the sun rose, illuminating her exhausted but resolute face, she already knew what she needed to do. And she also knew that from that moment, nothing in Golden Ridge would be the same. The morning arrived with the freshness that precedes great storms. Emily carefully stored the USB device in a locket she wore around her neck, a gift from her deceased mother. She knew that from that moment, each step would be risky. The evidence her father had gathered was devastating. Falsified contracts, suspicious bank transfers, recordings of meetings where Austin and his accomplices openly discussed how to defraud small farmers. When Michael arrived, she was already waiting for him on the porch, a cup of untouched coffee cooling between her hands. "I found what we were looking for," she said simply, showing the locket. "My father left everything documented." "Everything, Michael. Not just the frauds in the land sales, but a much larger scheme." Michael's eyes shone with a mixture of hope and concern. "We can finally expose them," he murmured, "but we need to be extremely careful. If Austin suspects we have this evidence, our lives will be in real danger." "They already are," replied Emily with a calmness that surprised them both. "The longer we wait, the more people will be harmed. We need to act now." Asterisk. They elaborated a meticulous plan. Michael would use his influence as president of the New Ridge Consortium to convene an extraordinary meeting with all members of the cooperative under the pretext of proposing a commercial partnership. Emily would remain in the background, ready to present the evidence at the right moment. The day of the meeting arrived with palpable tension in the air. The main hall of the cooperative was packed. Local farmers, merchants, and even the mayor of the town attended, curious about the proposal of the mysterious investor who had been buying lands in the region. Austin Matthews presided over the meeting, his arrogant posture demonstrating that he didn't see Michael as a real threat. After all, to him, it was just another naive businessman, easily manipulable like so many others who had passed through Golden Ridge. Michael presented himself formally, his firm voice echoing through the hall. "My name is Michael Anderson, son, Sir Richard Anderson, the legitimate owner of the lands that today form a large part of this cooperative." A murmur ran through the audience. Austin visibly paled, but recovered quickly. "Anderson? Impossible. Richard Anderson sold everything he had here almost 20 years ago and disappeared. We have no pending business with your family." "On the contrary," continued Michael, imperturbable, "we have much to resolve. My father sold these lands for a fraction of their real value, deceived by fraudulent contracts elaborated by you and your associates. Contracts that an honest man tried to expose, and for that was falsely accused and persecuted." "What are you talking about?" Austin tried to maintain his composure, but the nervousness was evident in his voice. "If you're referring to Frank Miller, everyone knows he stole money from the cooperative and fled like a coward." Asterisk. It was at that moment that Emily entered the hall. A sepulchral silence fell over the assembly. Many hadn't seen her in months, since she had stopped attending social events in the town, tired of the looks of contempt. "My father was neither a thief nor a coward," she declared, her voice clear and strong. Frank Miller discovered Austin Matthews's frauds and tried to denounce them. For that he was slandered, persecuted, and... She hesitated briefly, the pain evident on her face, and probably murdered. Asterisk shocked exclamations echoed through the hall. Austin rose abruptly. This is defamation. I will not allow an unbalanced woman and an outsider to come here and launch accusations without evidence against me. We have evidence, replied Emily calmly, removing the USB device from the locket. All the evidence that my father gathered over years. Falsified contracts, suspicious bank transfers, recordings of meetings where you and your accomplices openly discuss how to defraud small farmers. Asterisk Michael connected the device to a laptop linked to the room's projector. The images and documents began to appear on the screen, incontestable in their clarity. Audio recordings where Austin's voice coldly discussed how to force farmers off their lands. Documents showing how values were diverted from the cooperative to personal accounts. Contracts with clauses adulterated after the signatures. Austin, S. Face went from furious red to cadaverous white as the evidence accumulated. When a recording clearly showed him ordering someone to take care of Frank Miller once and for all, the hall exploded in indignation. This is a montage, he shouted desperately, but his voice was lost in the tumult. The mayor, visibly shaken, stood up and made a gesture asking for silence. As the highest authority of this town, I cannot ignore such serious evidence. I request that the police be called immediately and that all documents be preserved for official investigation. Austin, realizing he was cornered, tried to flee, but was restrained by indignant farmers who blocked the exit. In minutes, police cars surrounded the cooperative building. Austin and two of his main allies were taken in to give statements, under accusations ranging from fraud to criminal association. In the weeks that followed, a complete investigation was opened. More accomplices were identified and arrested. The truth about Frank's disappearance finally came to light. He had been ambushed on his way to a meeting with a state prosecutor, to whom he intended to deliver the evidence he had gathered. His body was found in a remote area, confirming Emily's worst fears. The pain of confirmation was devastating, but it also brought a strange kind of relief. She could finally give her father a dignified burial and say goodbye properly. More importantly, she could clear his name and restore his honor before the entire community. Life in Golden Ridge transformed rapidly. With the fall of Austin and his group, Michael proposed a complete restructuring of the cooperative. The lands acquired by the New Ridge Consortium were reorganized in a fairer system, allowing small farmers to recover their properties or receive adequate compensation for their losses. Emily, now recognized as the daughter of a local hero, became one of the natural leaders of this reconstruction process. Her strength and resilience, previously seen as stubbornness and arrogance, were now admired by all. The same people who once avoided her now sought her guidance and support. On a golden autumn afternoon, 6 months after Austin's fall, Emily walked through the property that had been her father's. The plantations had been expanded, new irrigation systems installed, and the main house restored to its original beauty. In the distance, she saw Michael arriving on horseback, as on the day she had met him. "How was the meeting in the capital?" she asked when he approached. "Better than we expected," replied Michael, dismounting and walking beside her. "The state government approved all our projects for the cooperative. Golden Ridge will be a model of sustainable agriculture and fair trade for the entire region." Emily smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and melancholy. "My father would have been happy to see this." "He would see much more than that," said Michael, taking her hands in his. "He would see his daughter transform pain into purpose, injustice into renewal. He would see you restore not just his name, but the life of an entire community." Emily felt her heart accelerate. During these months of intense work side by side, the bond between her and Michael had deepened. What had begun as an alliance for justice had transformed into something much deeper, a feeling that both had been cautious in naming, respecting the mourning and the scars that still needed to heal. "What do you see when you look to the future, Michael?" she asked, surprising herself with the boldness of the question. His eyes shone with that intensity that always disconcerted her. I see this land flourishing again. I see justice where there was corruption. And I see you, Emily. His voice lowered to almost a whisper. If you allow me to be by your side. Emily felt tears spring to her eyes, but this time they weren't tears of pain or anger. They were tears of someone who finally sees an open horizon after years of storm. I can't imagine anyone with whom I'd rather rebuild all this, she answered simply. Michael embraced her strongly, as if he feared that moment might escape. The sun was setting on the horizon, bathing the fields in a golden light that seemed to bless this new beginning. Emily knew the journey didn't end there. There would still be challenges, resistance, wounds to heal. The memory of her father and the injustice he suffered would always be part of who she was. But for the first time in years, the future didn't seem like a threat but a promise. In the lands where once grew bitterness and distrust, now flourished something new. Hope. A hope built not on forgetting, but on truth, not on revenge, but on justice. And above all on the courage of a woman who refused to accept the lie as destiny and found in her own strength the power to rewrite her story. As twilight gave way to the starry night, Emily and Michael walked together back to the house, no longer as strangers united by chance, but as partners chosen by the heart. The small town of Golden Ridge, seen from the top of the hill, seemed different now. Its lights no longer somber like secrets, but welcoming like promises of a new dawn. End of story. Dear listeners, we hope that the story of Emily and Michael has touched your hearts and shown how truth, even when buried for years, always finds a way to come to light. To continue this emotional journey, we've prepared a special playlist with equally captivating stories. Find it here, clicking to your left. If you liked this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave your like on the video. Every day we bring unique stories that explore the complexity of life and the strength of the human spirit. Don't miss our next content. We're eager to